Welcome back to part 7 of our mouse maze game. The very first thing I want to do is add a set of instructions to our intro screen so that the player actually knows what on earth they're supposed to do to play this game. So we're going to unlock and unhide our intro screen layer, make sure every other layer is locked and hidden. And if you remember, we made this intro screen into one big movie clip. The reason why we did that is so if we go inside, we can change whatever we want without breaking any of our code or having to worry about including it in our code. It already has been taken care of. So all we want to do is go under the text tool. We want to use classic text, static text. I'm going to use the family typewriter. We don't have to embed this because it's one of the three at the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write the word click. And then I'm going to make a new text box and say to beat each maze. All right. And the reason why I'm doing that is because in our library, sorry, not beat each maze, we want to say to start each maze. There you go, to start each maze. And the reason why I'm leaving this blank space here is because in our library we have our start point and our end point. Let's drag a copy of that in here and drag a copy of this in here as well. So now we have this. Let's go ahead and create some more text boxes. We're going to click here and say reach. If you press escape, it'll actually just complete that text box for you. Click over here, and we're going to say, what do we want to say? To beat each maze. And there we go. So now it's pretty ugly, right? We have all our parts, but it's pretty ugly. So let's take click and reach. We'll go to our align tool. We'll align them to the horizontal center. We'll take our start and end. Make sure align to stage is not checked or this will not work. We want to align to horizontal center, and for this one we can just align them to, let's say, the left edge. All right, so once we have that done, select these three right here, align tool, align them vertical center, these over here, align vertical center. And now let's say we want to center this whole thing to the center of the stage. Well, if we did that without messing with this at all, we can do that, click align horizontal center, and see they all overlap. And the quick fix around this is just, if we just turn this whole thing into a movie clip, then it'll work. So I'm going to select all these, tap F8, and say, we want to call this intro screen, what do we want to call this? Message, let's say intro screen message 1. And it's not that informative, but whatever. And let's copy this text so we can use it later. So make it a movie clip, set the registration point to the center. Once we have that done, we can go into our align tool, check align to stage, and center it. And now it's perfectly in the middle of the stage. So let's do the same to our other little message. We want to name it intro screen message 2. Make sure it's a movie clip, registration point in the center. Click OK. Just select it, use our align tool. Align to stage is checked, align horizontal center. And now these don't exactly line up, but they are centered centered in the center of the stage. And if you don't exactly like how this looks, what you can do is go to align tool, uncheck align to stage, click align left edge, and that way these things will both line up, and at least this one is centered. So that's looking good so far. Let's space this out just a little bit. We want to select all these. I'm just going to tap the down arrow a couple times to kind of give us some more space. And I'll move start down there. And let's see. Move this down just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. So let's go back. And now our end screen is going to be a little messed up. So let's lock and hide these here on the end screen. Let's actually show these real quick. We want to show the outline of the intro screen, and we're just going to line up these buttons again just like we did before. So lock the intro screen, double click on the end screen, let's scroll down here and just sort of drag it and tap the arrow key until it lines up pretty nicely. Alright, so now we can save. Let's show normal of the intro screen. We can lock and hide all our layers. So now what we have is an intro screen that actually has some instructions. So to make sure nothing is messed up, we can run it. See, it says click start to start each maze, reach end to beat each maze. So now when I start, I can actually know what's going on. And the cool thing about the way we did that is if we go into our library and we were to change our start point, don't actually do this, I'm just showing you as an example. If we were to change our start point to, let's say, be, I don't know, instead of green, we wanted it to be pink. Well, now if we do that and we run our game, start point's still going to change here, and it matches up perfectly. So that's a way we can actually change the start buttons for our mazes. So let me go back into here and undo this. So I went ahead and did that, and now our start button's back to normal. So the next thing I want to show you how to do is use sounds, how to add sounds into your game. And let's add an explosion or like a buzz kind of sound every time the player loses and hits a wall. So let's go. I'm going to open up Google Chrome, and make sure you open up Chrome as well. Internet Explorer doesn't quite work with this. So I'm going to open up Google Chrome. I'm going to go to find, F-I-N-D, sounds.com. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to uncheck these 3 file formats. So we only want to be searching for MP3. This other stuff doesn't quite matter. And what we're going to do is we're going to search for an explosion. So I'm going to use explosion as my keyword, click search, and which one do I want? Let's find out. So if you want to listen to it, you click the play button, and make sure your volume's not way turned up when this is going on, because if you have it really loud, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. So you listen to it, it'll show a little preview, and I don't quite like that one, so I just went back. Let's try number 2. Give me a second while I pick one out. Alright, so the one that I'm going to use is going to be number 9 here after typing in explosion. So the way we can download this file is, well, that's right, you can't really do this, can you? Yeah, okay, that'll work. So there's 2 options here. You can right click on the link and say save link as, and then you can just tell it where you want to put it. So in your H drive, it'll say video file, but when you save it, it'll actually still be an MP3. So don't worry about what this says, just give it a name that you can memorize. So you can just right click on the link, or you can click play and right click somewhere in this, black space and click, oh, okay, hold on, this thing's being grumpy. Right click somewhere in the black space, click save as. Oh man, this thing's being really finicky, and you get the same exact effect. So because this is being a little weird, I'm just gonna go back here, right click on this link, I'm gonna click save link as, and where do I want to save it? Into my H drive, and I'm just going to call it Game Over Explosion, and save. And you can see now that I have this Game Over Explosion.mp3. If it does not say MP3, you did something wrong and this is not going to work. So let's go back into Flash. And what we need to do first is import our sound to our library so that it is in the same exact place as all of our other files. So what we're going to do is say File, Import, Import to Library. And this might take a little while to load up, but once it's up, all you have to do is find your file. So I saved it under my H drive, and I called it Game Over Explosion. Now you might want to put these into separate folders so that they're easier to find, but I'm just going to use my H drive for now because it's pretty quick, pretty simple. And once I have my Game Over Explosion selected, I'm going to click Open. And now inside my library, I should somewhere have Game Over Explosion. And there you go. And can we actually listen to this? Test? Yeah. So if you double click on it, there is a button called Test. Click Test and make sure that it actually plays. Now even this here is getting a little unorganized. So if you wanted to put these into new folders, you could say New Folder and then put your sounds in a sound folder. But we're only going to use this one sound, so I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, so how do we actually get this thing to play? Well, let's go into our actions. So I'm going to hide our intro screen again and click on our actions, and I'm going to tap F9. But actually, really quick, before I do that, if you remember how we made our mazes have a class so that we can pull them dynamically, well, we need to do something very similar to our sound in order to be able to play it with code. So in our library, click on our Game Over Explosion, double click, And if you notice, there is a tab called ActionScript. So click on tab ActionScript, and we want to click Export for ActionScript. And the class that we want is not GameOverExplosion.mp3, but just GameOverExplosion. The way classes work, they need to be named just like variables. So we can't have dots, we can't have spaces, and anything like that. So class will be GameOverExplosion. I'm going to click OK. And now that has a class that we can use in our code. So now for real, let's click on Actions, tab F9. Come on. Come on. And what we need to do is create a variable that has our sound. So in the very, 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 very top, let's go ahead and say used when we lose a life. And we'll say var. So we're making a variable, and we want to say game over sound, and it'll be type. Well, what type it'll be? It'll be the type of class we just made. So what did we actually call that? If we go in here, game over explosion, we call this game over explosion. So we're making a new sound that is pulling from this game over explosion class, and that's just sort of how it works. So back to our actions, we're going to say game over sound. The type is going to be game over explosion, and that needs to match that spelling exactly. And how we set this up is we just say new game over explosion, open close parentheses. When we do sounds this way and use, it's technically called a custom class. This is kind of just how it works, all right? So how do we actually get this to play? Well, where do we want it to play? We want it to play when player loses a life. So right here, what we want to do is, we can do this right before we subtract our lives. We want to say play life lost sound, or whatever you want to call this, and say game over sound, which is our variable, dot play, open close parentheses. And play is just a function. So if we did this correctly, we can run our game now. And if we click start, start again. If we lose, it should play our explosion sound. And if we lose again, it should still do it. And there we go. So that's it for part 7. All we did in this is add on to our intro screen a little bit of instructions, and we added sounds.